Alright kids, Robert Perry, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I'm going to be your next senator. I'm going to defeat Jack Reed. He has not been a very good senator. Let's talk about his commercial this week because I'm running for senator, U.S. Senator. I'd like to replace Jack Reed as a write-in candidate, Robert Scott Perry. But me wanting to be a write-in candidate, that's one thing. I want write-in candidates for every General Assembly seat. That means you kids have to get off your ass and we have to do some work. You've got to go each individually to the Electoral Commission, the Election Commission. You have to go to Ralph Mollis. You have to make sure that he puts a big space in the write-in section of the ballot so that you can replace your General Assembly candidate. Why? Because they stole $75 million. Now, I wouldn't be so sure of asking you to do this today, except we just found out that the facts are in. What happened is, they stole $75 million. They did it kind of an easy way. They gave the money to Kurt Schilling. He funneled it to some of his friends. They funneled the money back to the General Assembly members, and they used it to continue their campaigns. It's really not complicated what they did. We just got fooled. We got tricked. You've got to stand up to them. Now let me talk about Jack Reed. Why I can beat him, it's not that complicated a job. It really isn't. Oversight is their biggest job. He doesn't actually write legislation. He has a staff that writes the legislation and then he signs it. That's all he does. Yes or no. Okay, if he writes the legislation, obviously he says yes. If the Republicans, who he seems to love so much, write it, he says yes or no. And it seems like he wants to say yes a lot to the Republicans because it's commercial. The reason I'm talking tonight, it talks about jobs that he created 10 years ago. And he has regular working men and women saying that he did such a good job reaching across the aisle to get them the job. Only the jobs were in the 80s. The jobs were in the 90s. It is now 2014. The difficulties that we have today are much more complicated than anything that Jack Reed can possibly understand. He's not intellectually qualified. He doesn't get what's going on. You kids would know that. All you would have to do is look at his record. The people who I'm particularly talking to tonight are the people who I want to run. I want 75 good, charactered Rhode Islanders who do not expect to get rich by stealing from the government. What you need to do is run as a write-in candidate for General Assembly, and you need to investigate 38 studios. The facts are in. Your investigation will bear fruit. You will be heroes. Take over the General Assembly. Running the campaign is not that complex. I do my whole campaign through this YouTube thing, which is free. Whether my words are good or not, that's for the voters to decide. I'm not coming across with a lot of facts tonight because I'm really just cheerleading you kids. You kids can do it. You can be better than me. You can be better than your parents. You can be better than the politicians behind us who have ripped this state off terribly. Run for General Assembly. Okay? What Jack Reed did was he talked about how he had created these jobs in the state, you know. Only it's illegal now, as a senator, to turn around and to set jobs up for your own state. It's called an earmark, and it's illegal. They passed laws within the Senate and the House that you can no longer go around and pick and choose what submarine you feel like making, what bomb you feel like building, and bring that bomb or that submarine contract to your own state. It's illegal, Jack. You were there, weren't you? Or were you out at a party? And so when he says that he brought you the job, he didn't bring you the job. The job was a deal made by the Defense Department, and he happens to be a senator. So, I mean, there's some connection. He works for the federal government, and the federal government bought the submarine. But he didn't buy the submarine. When he gets wined and dined by General Dynamics, when he gets wined and dined by Electric Boat, and then he says yes? Well, he was going to say yes anyway. He's lying to you. He's doing nothing about, okay, it's going to sound far-fetched, the bees. We have a nicotine-based poison that is being sold as an insecticide that is killing the bees in the whole world. He doesn't know about that. He'd say, oh, that's such a big thing. He'd be like a Republican. How they said, oh, they can't stop the oceans from rising. Yes, we can't stop everything from happening today. But if we don't start fixing the environment today, Jack, then after you die, all the children who you're betraying today will die horrible deaths. Human beings cannot live on this planet in the atmosphere that you're leaving behind. Jack's on his way out, and on his way out he's going to give us a present. He's going to give you kids a present. Death. The Senate is leaving us with death, and he's part of that Senate. I don't know how Sheldon Whitehouse can be friends with this guy, because Sheldon seems to understand that the environment is the #1 issue. Climate justice and economic justice are the issues that are important to me, and I will take them to Washington. We need a $15 an hour minimum wage. We need cameras on every cop, on their uniform and in their car. We need cameras in the police stations and in the prisons, and whenever they have us in custody, we need a visual camera record of every moment they have us locked up. It's very important. We must legalize marijuana because half the population smokes. That puts half of us as criminals, meaning that the cops can arrest half the population whenever they feel like it. Plus, we're throwing away money and supporting the mafia. Legalize and tax marijuana. Beyond that, my fourth demand and the four that I stick with, those three, plus we need to raise the cap on Social Security, which means that no matter how much a person makes in a paycheck, they say they pay the same percentage tax for Social Security. If they don't do that, it's unfair. That means that you pay X amount of dollars in Social Security, and the guy that makes $20 million doesn't pay X times how much he makes, but he pays the same X as you. So if you pay $10 for Social Security tax, guess what? The billionaire pays the same $10 and gets the same check. How is that fair? This isn't fair. We have to get rid of Jack Reed. We have to get rid of the General Assembly. I'm talking to you tonight because I want to get the kids off the couch. Parents, you should be happy about this. They're sitting on your couch. You can't feed them. They can't feed themselves. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That's my job going to Washington, to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Cameras on cops is obvious. The Social Security tax is obvious. These are obvious changes we need to bring to Washington. Send me to Washington and I will bring them home, along with defending our Constitution and making sure that they cannot look in every nook and cranny of your private life. The Fourth Amendment, the reason that we had a revolution, the general warrants that we fought against with the British government, that's what they have now. They have that, and they have indefinite detention because of Jack Reed. Indefinite detention means that right now, because of Jack Reed, the president can arrest anybody anywhere in the world and keep them forever. No lawyer, no trial. We don't know if they're guilty or not, except because the president says so. He can lock them in a box and keep them forever. I don't think that's right. My name is Robert Scott Perry. I wish to be your senator. I will protect your Constitution. I will raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I will raise the Social Security cap so that everybody pays the same tax on Social Security. I will put cameras on cops. Every cop, every day, every minute that they're working. No exceptions. Every car, every police station, every prison. They have to have us on camera or they can't have us in custody. And they certainly can't shoot us like they did yesterday in South Carolina, where a police officer in broad daylight just pulled out his gun and pulled the guy over and said, "Get your license." The guy leaned over for his license. The cop shot him. You don't think that could happen to you? Then I can't help you. If you realize that you're a human being and that it could happen to you, then stick with me. I'll protect your rights. I'll raise your minimum wage. I'll protect your unions. I will put cameras on every cop. Send me to Washington. Robert Scott Perry, November 4th. I want to defeat Jack Reed. Thank you for your time.